Hi everyone, my name is Lyndon, and in an attempt to revive my channel, I'm going to do some quick 5 to 10 minute videos introducing some After Effects techniques. Most of them are going to be pretty simple, so I'm not going to spend too much time explaining the concepts. It's more of here's a technique and you can expand upon it if you want to. Hopefully you enjoy this, and we're going to be doing some quick simple techniques with revealing text with a matte and using an effect called Roughen Edges. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a new composition. I'm going to do 1920 by 1080, 30 FPS, and 150 frames, so that's going to be 5 seconds. I'm also using 32 bits per channel, but for this it's not going to be that much difference if you just use 8-bit. Alright, so the first thing, we'll click over here, got a new text, and I'm going to type in Rust. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make this all caps. And because I have such a great taste in fonts, I'm going to use Jokerman. Okay, so I'm going to select back on the selection tool, and to center the text, we're going to center the anchor point first, so that's Control-Alt-Home, and then Control-Home to center the text in the composition. And because it looks like there's more space at the top than the bottom, I'm going to zoom in and shift arrow up a couple times, and that's just going to improve the overall composition. Alright, so the next thing, I'm going to double click on the import area, and there's 2 Rust textures, so I'm going to import both of these. But for now, I'm only going to use the top one. I'm just going to click and drag this underneath. I'm also going to right click over source name, go to columns, and add my switches so I don't have to toggle between them. Okay, so we want the text to serve as a matte for this texture. So I'm going to go to track matte, alpha matte, and now the texture is going to fill wherever the alpha is on this layer. If you go to your toggle transparency grid, you can see that the alpha is only occupying, or the pixels in the alpha are only over the text. Okay, so let's turn this back off, and we need to pre-compose both of these, so you can either do right click, pre-compose, or you can just select them both and do Control-Shift-C, and I'm going to call this Rust with Texture. Now from there, we're going to go for a new, we're going to do solid, and this is going to be our reveal matte. Doesn't matter what the color is, but it needs to be the same size as the comp. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off, go up to the rectangle tool, and we're going to draw a rectangular mask around this, but give it enough padding around the sides. Okay, we're going to open up the mask path, go all the way to the end, and we're going to animate this mask. So we're going to select the stopwatch. So now we're going to go all the way to the very beginning. And to select just these 2 vertices, we're going to select once in the void area, select one vertex, and then marquee select the other 2 vertices. Then click and drag these over to the left, and then hold down the shift key to keep it perfectly straight. All right, so now the mask is animating between frame 0 and 150. Okay, so with the rest with texture comp, we're going to set the track matte to be the alpha of that matte, and now we get some simple reveal. But right now it's not looking terribly good because we have a really hard straight edge. So we need to break that up. So I'm going to turn on the matte just so you can see that's the line that's being used. Select that layer, go to FX and presets. I'm going to type in Roughen Edges. There are lots of techniques to do things like this, but this is a pretty automated way to do it. I'm going to toggle off the mask visibility. And then under border, I'm going to crank that up quite a bit. And then I'm going to increase the complexity. It's going to give a lot more detail. And then you can play around with these other settings if you want to. And then I'm going to turn this back off. And now you can see as that matte is moving across the screen, we get more of a fractal pattern. It's going to break up the edge, and it's going to make it look a little bit more rusty, which is kind of the point of this. Okay, but there's a few more things that we can do to improve this. So the first thing is I want to show you how to combine multiple textures together. And to do that, we're going to go back into this Rust text with texture comp. And in order to have 2 textures being used with this text matte, we actually need to unset the track matte, grab the other texture, and then select them both, and then pre-compose these. So again, right click pre-compose, or do Control-Shift-C, and we're just going to call this textures. So double click the textures comp, and inside this you can do whatever you want with the blending modes. You can do something like lighten, and that will provide us with some more interesting rust. And if you'd like to cycle through them, you can do the shift key and then the plus equals sign on your keyboard. So you can play around with different ones. Okay, I'm going to go back into the Rust with texture, reset this to be the alpha of the text matte, then go back to the comp over here, and then we can see that we have both of those textures showing through. And you can do that with as many as you want now. All right, so I'm going to actually increase the contrast here. So I'm going to grab a curves effect. Just add a simple contrast curve just to add a little bit of depth to that. And the other thing is, if you want to have a slightly different color at the very, very front of that edge, it's very simple to do, and there's multiple ways you can do it, but probably the easiest thing is to close both of the layers here. Select them both and do Control D to duplicate them. And then on the layer underneath, we're going to grab this reveal matte, pull it forwards. We can change the evolution a little bit so we get a slightly different pattern. Then back on this texture, I'm going to reset the curves, and then we're going to do a bit darker, more burnt orange. That's going to make it a little bit more interesting on that edge line as it's being revealed. And you could use the same concept to do something like a burning edge or something like that. Of course, we could go into the graph editor and make this transition not linear. We could speed it up, but I just wanted to show the concept of using some simple mattes and using the Roughen Edges technique. So hopefully, if you enjoyed that, subscribe for more, and I hope to add a lot more videos to my channel shortly. So thank you for watching. Have a good day.